Don't stand up and clap. I haven't said anything yet. It is good to be with you. Jim and Marilyn, thank you. What an amazing place here. All the memorabilia and the amazing cars. Thanks for hosting. And of course, you got a great member of Congress, and Randy and Lynette are just good people. So thank you for being involved. I said this earlier to the group. You know, you get involved in politics today, you're running the risk because the left is mean and they'll come after you. You don't have to, be in elective office to have the left come after you. They're just crazy. I told the story earlier. You remember a few years ago when Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders gave the response to the State of the Union. The State of the Union is something neat we do. I tell people the closest thing to pageantry we have in America is the State of the Union address. And I've been to, whether it's a joint address or a state, I guess 19 of them. I go to every single one, whether Democrat or Republican president. It's a neat thing. We don't have the like the United Kingdom, like Great Britain. We don't have the king, the queen, the monarch. We have the State of the Union. You get the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court down front, the diplomats, the lights. It's a big production, and it's a good thing. Good thing for our country. So I went to it a few years ago, and as I said before, to a smaller group. Joe Biden gave a typical Joe Biden speech. It was terrible, right? And Sarah, she gave the response. And, you give the response, again, you're just in a room talking to a camera. You don't have all the big lights, camera, and everything like you have in the House chamber. But she did a great job, and her best line was when she said, the divide in America today is normal versus crazy. And it is true. I say this, not all Democrats are crazy, but the left that controls their party is, right? You can go down the list. It is crazy to defund the police. That's the left's position. That's just crazy. It's crazy not to have a border. And thank goodness President Trump, I like what he said at the address he gave to Congress a couple months ago. He said, turned out you didn't need a new bill to secure the border, just need a new president, right? We need to get it secure now. So the left thinks you shouldn't have a border. The left thinks men should compete. It's crazy, their position, crazy to let men compete against women in sports. And you could just keep going. One of my favorites. It is crazy to let a Chinese spy balloon, right? And the key words in that sentence are Chinese and spy, right? It is crazy to let a Chinese spy balloon fly clear across the country and then shoot it down. I'm just a hillbilly from Western Ohio. I think I'd have shot it down before it went across the country, right? I know Feenstra would have. I know Trump would have, right? There's no way. But the left is crazy. And the left is not only crazy, the left doesn't like us. They don't. Remember when Anderson Cooper, on CNN, they think they're so much smarter than us regular folks and fly over country. Anderson Cooper was talking about Trump supporters, said Trump supporters eat at the Olive Garden and stay at the Marriott, because he stays at, he eats at the fancy 5-star, stays at the Ritz or whatever. And after he said that, I was thinking like, weekend at Olive Garden and Marriott, that's not all bad, right? That's not all bad, but that's how the left, remember when Peter Strzok, remember the whole Mueller stuff, the crazy Russia, Peter Strzok sends a text message to Lisa Page, and he says in there, he goes, he's at the Northern Virginia Walmart, he goes, I can smell the Trump supporters. So there's this disdain they have for us, and then they're not only crazy, not only don't like us, they're mean. Just the way it is. I say the left has a formula. The basic template they follow. The left will tell a lie. The big media, mainstream media, legacy media will report the lie. Big tech will amplify the lie. And then when you tell the truth, they call you a racist. Or they call you something else. They'll attack you. And then pretty soon your position is proven accurate, but by that point they're on to the next lie. And the process repeats. Now the good news is, on November 5th, last year, the American people said, we have figured all this baloney out, and we are not going to take it anymore. And they showed up in a big way and said, we're going to put Republicans in control of the Congress, and we're going to put President Trump back in the White House because we have had it with where the left wants to take us. And understand how close we were. If the left would have prevailed, where they were taking the country, think about the First Amendment. This is where we spent the bulk of our time last year in Congress and the Judiciary Committee. Where they were going to take us is frightening. Under the First, we have 5 liberties under the First Amendment. 5 fundamental rights we have as American citizens. Our right to practice our faith, our right to assemble like we're doing right now, our right to petition the government, free press, free speech. The left had attacked every single one of those liberties, particularly during COVID. I mean, think about it, during COVID. You had government telling American citizens can't go to church, can't go to work, can't go to school in America. couldn't go to church on Sunday. The folks who started this place. In Europe, they told them, you got to practice your faith a certain way. And they said, no, we don't. We will risk it all. We will get on a ship. We will go to this place called America. We can practice our faith the way we think the good Lord wants us to and work hard and chase down our goals and dreams. That's what America's always afforded its citizens, and the left went right after it. Scary what they were doing. But of those 5 liberties, the most important one of all of them, the most important one is the last one. Our right to talk. Our right to speak. Because if you can't speak, you can't practice your faith, you can't share your faith, you can't petition your government, and you don't have a free press. That is the most fundamental liberty we have. And that's the one that, remember they tried to set up the Disinformation Governance Board? Remember this? Right? As if a bunch of bureaucrats can tell you what you can say, what you can tweet, what you can post, what you can read. It's crazy where they were going. Scary. Mark Zuckerberg sent me a letter. If you may remember this last fall August, before the election. Sent me a letter, and he indicated, because we've been investigating all this, he indicated in the letter, he said, the Biden administration pressured us to censor. We did it. We're sorry, and we won't do it anymore. Remember that? And I tell people, he sent me the letter because we had deposed 12 people from Facebook, and Mr. Zuckerberg didn't want to be the 13th. And so he says, I'm gonna come clean and admit what was going on. But what they were doing to keep us from speaking out, to censor America, is frightening. And November 5th changed all that. And thank the good Lord it did. Because if they stopped that, we had. It's funny. I invited a number of Democrats at the time to come in and speak to our committee. We had Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, first of all, think of this: did you ever think you would see Donald Trump, Elon Musk, RFK Jr., and Tulsi Gabbard on the same team? Did you ever think that? Like, that is the new coalition. But before Tulsi and RFK Jr. and Elon all became Republicans, we invited them in to speak because they were right on the First Amendment. And I remember I called up RFK Jr. last summer, right after he endorsed President Trump. And I called him up and I thanked him for his endorsement. And I said, you know, when I invited you in a couple years ago to speak in front of our committee, I said, I took some heat from that. People were like, what's that conservative Jordan guy? What's he doing inviting in RFK Jr., Democrat, running for president on the Democrat ticket? What's he inviting him in to speak? I said, we took some heat for that, but I said, we look like geniuses now, right? And he started laughing. But I said, you said something in that hearing that stuck with me. By the way, in that hearing, when we invited RFK Jr. in to talk, hearing on censorship, the Democrats made a motion. W. Wasserman Schultz made a motion to go to executive session, which is, as you all know, we've got legislators in here, means you kick everyone out. You kick the press, you kick everyone out. So the Democrats made a motion to go to executive session so no one could hear what RFK Jr. was going to testify to in a hearing on censorship. Think about that. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And I'm like, I looked at him like, his name is Kennedy. It's only the most well-known name in Democrat politics in the last 3/4 of a century, and you guys don't want anyone to hear what he says? And he's running for president on your ticket? That's how crazy the left has become. But in that hearing, he said something I never forgot. He says, when you look at history, it is never the good guys who are for censorship. It's always the bad guys. Always the bad guys. And that was where the left wanted to take us. So thank you for being involved and making a difference. Folks like you all over this country said, we have had it, showed up and supported President Trump and supported Republicans up and down the ticket, and we so appreciate that. Your willingness to get involved and assume the risk associated with fighting for the things that matter. Thank you for helping Randy Feenstra. I said this earlier too. There are individuals in politics who you wish weren't. We call them Democrats, right? But then there are people with the right values, the right perspective, the work ethic, the toughness, the character that you want in elective office, and that is Randy Feenstra. I always say I think we make the job way too complicated. It's pretty simple. What'd you tell the voters you were going to do when you ran for the job, when you put your name on the ballot, when you went out and campaigned? If they elect you, go do what you said. And Randy does that every single day. And he's one of those guys. In the history of our great country, only about 12,000 individuals have ever had the opportunity to serve in the United States Congress. It is truly a privilege. Since the start of this amazing experiment in liberty we call America, only about 12,000 people. And the best ones of Congress are the ones who remember that it is a privilege and that they are representing the folks back home. the families, the small business owners, the people back home, the communities that he's a part of. And Randy understands that. So as long as he keeps putting his name on the ballot, you keep sending him to Washington because he is doing the right work, doing the work that you all sent him there to do. So thank you for doing that. And he's fighting for the very, very things you said. And as he pointed out, this legislation we just passed, the one big, beautiful bill, what someone call it, the OB3, the triple B, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I said this on the House floor. I said, this is a good bill because the Democrats hate it, right? Sometimes the best way to tell if something is good is what the other side says about it. It's a good bill because it cuts taxes. Fundamental Republican position. We actually believe we're the party that says letting moms and dads keep more of their money so they can chase down their goals and dreams is a darn good thing. This bill cuts taxes. Gotta love that. This bill actually allocates resources to keep the border secure. Central issue of last fall's campaign. That portion of the bill came from our committee. Money for 10,000 new ICE agents, 100,000 new detention beds, money for resources to repatriate people who have to go back. I mean, it's a good piece of legislation on that alone. Cuts taxes, resources to make sure the border stays secure, and says to able-bodied adults, if you're an able-bodied adult and you're in our social safety net systems, guess what? You're going to have to work. Basic principle. I tell people that's not only good for taxpayers, treats them with respect, not only good for our economy, we need workers, but it's good for that person. Work is a good thing. I think about welfare reform. I'm always reminded of first, work teaches you those fun. You all know this, and hardworking Iowans out here. I remember the first job my brother and I had. We mowed about 21 country lawns. We had a little lawn mowing business. My dad did this old beat-up truck he gave us with a trailer. We had one riding mower, push mower, weed eater, toolbox. Looked like the Beverly Hillbillies going down the road, And it was funny because you're working hard. Plus you got wrestling, all the things you're doing. And sometimes if we were home and the phone would ring, we'd want to get to the phone first because it'd be some new customer potentially wanting their yard mowed. My dad would never turn anyone down. Boys will be right over. Sure, they'll mow your. And we were like, no, we don't want any more. But you learn so many important skills when you work, right? You learn to manage a schedule. You learn to see a job well done afterwards. All just the good things. You learn to deal with people. I still remember we mowed this one lawn for the Steinberger sisters, two ladies, never married, lived together, had their place, a pretty big yard we mowed. But we quickly learned, normally you come into a yard, you just unload and get after it because you had to get to the next one, all kinds of things to do. But we learned with the Steinberger sisters that when you get there, it was worth your while to take a few minutes, go up and say hello to them before you got to mowing. Go out and visit with them a little bit because sure enough, about the time you're finishing up, starting to trim, you could smell the chocolate chip cookies that they were making. You learn people skills. And what's happened so much with the way the left operates in these social safety nets and social welfare systems is they're robbing people of those skills we all learned in those first jobs. And this bill says if you're an able-bodied adult, you're going to have to work. If you're getting their American tax money, you're going to have to work. And then finally, this bill also says moms and dads know best where their kids are going to get the kind of education that's going to help them. And it's got school choice is a central part of this legislation. So tax cuts, border security, able-bodied people have to work, and school choice for just fundamental Republican principles. Of course the left's not going to like it. But it's a good piece of legislation that would not have happened but for folks like you all over the country saying we're going to put President Trump and Republicans back in control. And finally, I would just say this. Thank you for helping President Trump. He is a good man. I've gotten to know the guy over the last 10 years, and maybe you've noticed this about the president. It's, I think, the thing that stands out most to me. President Trump hates to lose. You guys notice that? I mean, I tell people that's a good quality. He totally thinks like an athlete. He despises losing. Remember that line from, what's that movie? Moneyball. Billy Bean, and I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Moneyball. Billy Bean, he says, I love winning, but he says, I hate losing. I hate losing more than I love to win. That is President Trump. It's a mindset athletes have. I actually think it's a mindset that Americans have. Americans aren't wimpy, sissy losers. Americans are winners. It's just part of our spirit. Some people think that It's sort of in our DNA. Like I said before, the people who started this place, risk it all, came here on a ship. There's just this attitude that we're going to overcome. President Trump has that attitude, and I think that is exactly the kind of attitude you want in your leader. The things he's had to deal with from the get-go. I mean, I still remember in 16, before he's even president, remember, Secretary Clinton, running Democrat, they hired the law firm Perkins Coie, right, who hired this firm, Fusion GPS, who went out and hired this foreigner, Christopher Steele, who wrote this fake document called the dossier, the fancy name. And then Jim Comey, the same Jim Comey was in the news last week for that ridiculous thing he posted online, right? Jim Comey then takes the fake dossier to the secret court, tells the secret court lies, gets the warrant to go spy on President Trump's campaign. And then everything else that happened. The Mueller investigation, where they said Trump colluded with Russia. No, and of course, Mueller determined that, no, it didn't happen. No collusion, no coordination, no conspiracy whatsoever. Then it was impeachment. Then it was Jack Smith, Fonnie Willis, Alvin Bragg, all the lawfare going after him. Then it was raiding his home, and on he goes. And through it all, this guy just stayed tough and stayed committed. Remember 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, when they raided his home? I mean, Polly and I were, you guys are probably like Polly and I, we're watching this at home. I still remember standing on our deck, watching the TV, and you're watching FBI agents go through the home of the former president of the United States. And I'm thinking, this is not supposed to happen in our great country. This is not how the United States of America operates. They're going through his home, and we're watching something. This is crazy. And finally, I said to Polly, I said, I'm just going to call him. Because you actually start to feel more, just on a personal level, if any of your friends or family that was happening, you'd be like, what? So you just feel bad for him as an individual. And so I called the president. He answers. He doesn't even say hello. He just goes, Jim, this is the best thing that's ever happened to our party. Then he goes, my numbers are going to go up. And I'm like, well, I mean, I did like you. I chuckled, but I said, well, maybe, Mr. President, but there are FBI agents going through your house in America. This is how crazy it had become. I mean, you think about Fonnie Willis. That case was ridiculous. Alvin Bragg's case was ridiculous. We just deposed Jay Brad, who was part of the Jack Smith team, and I'm not allowed to, we haven't released the transcript, so I can't tell you what he said, but that guy was the most arrogant. He was as arrogant as Jim Comey. And these guys are unbelievable how they think they're so much better than us regular folk who live here in the heartland. So President Trump is a good guy, and he is fighting for the things that I think truly matter. Thank you for helping him. It is an amazing country. One of my we're in the middle of the baseball season, and Randy mentioned my background's in the sport of wrestling. I always joke. When I was a kid, I'd had life figured out. When you're in grade school, you got life figured out. And when I was in second grade, I knew what I was going to do. I knew. Because I grew up in the 70s, and I love sports. And, of course, when you're a kid, you follow the winning team. And I love the Pittsburgh Steelers because, they won everything. I can name, like, Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris, Lynn Swann. I can name them all. On the defense, Mean Joe Green, Steel Curtin. I loved all that. Loved the Steelers. And I was convinced in second grade that I was going to be my favorite player. I was going to be the next Jack Lambert. I was going to play middle linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just knew it. But as you can see, the good Lord had other designs. I'm 5'7.5" on a good day, so I had to wrestle. So love sports, but my favorite quote is actually not a football guy, not a wrestling guy. It's actually a baseball player, Orel Hershiser, pitched for the Dodgers. Of course, the Dodgers, and I love the Reds growing up too. Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, Johnny Bench, can name all those guys too. But Hershiser pitched for the Dodgers a few years later, and he took them to a World Series championship called The Bulldog. Read his book, an interesting book. Amazing, kind of one of these overachiever guys that you like to read about. But he had a line early in the book where he said this. He said, great things can happen to ordinary people who are willing to work hard and never give up. Great things can happen to ordinary people who work hard and never give up. And my favorite word in that statement, word that I think sets it apart, really, really has the meaning, is the word ordinary. Stop and think about it. We're all just ordinary people. Nobody's any better than anybody else. We're all in need of God's grace. But in this country, ordinary people don't have to do ordinary things. They can do extraordinary things if they're willing to work hard and never quit. That attitude has made us the greatest nation ever. This idea where we have this Constitution and the freedoms and the liberties that there, and if you're willing to set goals and work hard, good things can happen. And if the other side gets in office, they will ruin that phenomena. They will. That is what I think elections are all about, is preserving the promise this country has always afforded its citizens. You got a goal, you got a dream, in this country it can happen. One of my favorite authors, he passed away like 2 years ago, David McCullough. Any of you ever read any of McCullough's books? He wrote, Wright Brothers, he wrote Pioneers, he wrote 1776, John Adams, Johnstown Flood, amazing history of our country. Pioneers is a great book. It talks about the settlement of the Northwest Territory, starting in Marietta, Ohio, and as people moved north and west and settled the country. But my favorite one is the book he wrote on the Wright brothers from our great state. And the opening chapter, first page, I think first paragraph, he said, someone once asked Wilbur Wright what it takes to be successful. And he responded, pick out 2 good parents and be born in Ohio. And it's kind of a good joke for an Ohioan, or a good statement for Ohioan to say, but really I think what he was getting at is, if you got a supportive family and you live in America, the sky is the limit. You can accomplish anything. Look at what this family's accomplished. This amazing place, all the business, the opportunity they give to other families. It is an amazing place. And our values and the principles contained in our Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, preserving and protecting them is the challenge we all face. And if we can protect that promise that's afforded our citizens these amazing opportunities we have, we're going to continue to lead. And when we lead, everything is better. We were in Israel 2 months ago. It was our 6th trip over there. And it's funny, every time you go there, you meet with people with the IDF and the government and the private sector, everything else. But one of the conversations that happens on every trip is they'll tell us the best way America can help Israel, our dearest and closest ally, the best way you can help us is for America to stay strong. When America's strong, we're better off. And the truth is, when America leads, everyone around this planet is better off. I tell people, next to Jesus, the best thing that ever happened to this world was the United States of America. And as long as we remember that and talk about how great this country is, and we preserve the values and liberties that our Constitution, our government has always represented, we're going to be just fine. Thank you again for helping Randy Feenstra. God bless you all.